Michael. He buried his children. He watched a plague kill millions. His own son would destroy everything he built, and every single night, this man sat down and wrote about gratitude. How? How is that possible?
That is the question that has haunted readers for 2,000 years, and you are right to be shaken by it.
Because I have been reading Meditations, and his life was just one catastrophe after another. He spent the last decade fighting a war on the frozen northern frontier that he never wanted. A plague killed somewhere between 5 and 10 million people in his empire. His own son Commodus turned out to be, well, basically a disaster, and his body was falling apart. Chronic pain, stomach problems, possibly cancer.
And yet his journal reads like a love letter to life. That contradiction is exactly why Marcus Aurelius still matters.
But is he faking it? Is he in denial? Because if I had his life, I would not be writing philosophy, I would be screaming.
He was not faking it, and he was not in denial. He was practicing something very specific. The Stoics called it amor fati. The love of fate, and the reason Meditations has survived for almost 2,000 years is precisely because of the gap between his suffering and his wisdom. Let me walk you through his life, and I think you will start to see how he did it.
Please, because I really want to understand this.
Let us start with the plague. Marcus Aurelius became emperor in 161 AD. And almost immediately, the Antonine Plague arrived. It was likely smallpox. Brought back by soldiers returning from wars in the East at its peak, it was killing 2,000 people a day in Rome. Alone the physician Galen, who served Marcus personally, described the horror in his medical writings. Bodies piling up, entire villages emptied, the economy collapsing.
2,000 people a day in one city.
In one city, and Marcus did not hide. He did not retreat to a country villa like many wealthy Romans did. He stayed in Rome. He sold imperial furniture and his wife's silk dresses to fund the plague response because the treasury was empty from the wars. He personally oversaw the burial of the dead, and during all of this, he was writing in his journal.
What was he writing?
In Meditations, Book 9, Chapter 3, he wrote something that I think captures his entire approach to the Antonine Plague. He said, "Do not despise death, but be well content with it." Since this too was one of those things which nature wills, he was watching thousands die every day, and he was reminding himself that death is natural, not to minimize the horror, but to find a way to keep functioning, to keep leading, to keep showing up.
So he was not pretending the plague was fine. He was finding a way to face it without being destroyed by it.
Exactly, and that is amor fati in practice, not denial, not cheerfulness, functional acceptance, the ability to look at the worst thing happening and say, this is real, this is terrible, and I still have work to do.
Okay, so that is the plague. What about the wars?
The Marcomannic Wars. Marcus spent the last 12 years of his life on the northern frontier, fighting Germanic tribes along the Danube River. He was not a military man by nature. He was a philosopher. He loved books, lectures, quiet study. But the empire needed him on the frontier, so he went. And he hated it. You can feel it in his writing. In Meditations Book 2, Chapter 14, he writes, "Even if you were to live 3,000 years, remember that no one loses any other life than the one he is living now." He wrote that in a military tent, cold, exhausted, missing Rome.
Oh, so he was not some warrior emperor who loved battle. He was a philosopher who got dragged into a war.
Dragged into a war that lasted over a decade, and here is where amor fati becomes real. In Meditations Book 7, Chapter 9, he writes, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, and do so with all your heart." He did not choose the war. He did not want the war, but he accepted it as his fate, and he poured himself into it completely. Not with resentment, with love.
Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people fate brings you together. With that is so specific. He is not talking about loving fate in the abstract. He is talking about loving the actual soldiers around him, the actual cold, the actual war.
The actual mud, the actual bad food, the actual sleepless nights. Amor fati is not a theory for Marcus. It is a daily practice applied to very specific, very uncomfortable realities.
Okay, now tell me about Commodus because that is the part that really breaks my heart.
Commodus. This is the hardest part of Marcus's story, and I think it is the ultimate test of amor fati. Marcus Aurelius was one of the greatest rulers in Roman history. He was wise, just, disciplined, compassionate, and his son Commodus was none of those things. Commodus was impulsive, cruel, obsessed with gladiatorial combat. He would eventually declare himself a god and fight in the arena as a gladiator. The Roman Senate would later declare him a public enemy after his death.
And Marcus knew he had to have known.
The historical evidence suggests he knew Commodus was not fit to rule. The historian Cassius Dio records that Marcus was aware of his son's character, and yet Marcus made Commodus his successor. Some historians think he had no choice, that the political situation demanded a blood heir. Others think he genuinely hoped Commodus would grow into the role. But imagine that weight. You have spent your entire life trying to be good, trying to lead with virtue, and you know that everything you built will likely be undone by your own son.
Oh my God, that is devastating. How do you practice amor fati with that? How do you love a fate that includes watching your legacy be destroyed by your own child?
And that is where Marcus's writing becomes extraordinary. In Meditations, Book 6, Chapter 15, he writes, "Some things are rushing into existence, others out of it. Some of what now exists is already gone. Change and flux constantly remake the world." He is telling himself that nothing lasts, not his empire, not his reforms, not his legacy, and that this is not a tragedy. It is the nature of things. He is practicing amor fati with the most painful truth a parent can face.
He is not pretending Commodus will be a good emperor. He is accepting that his work is temporary and loving it anyway.
Loving it anyway. That is the hardest version of amor fati. Loving your work even though it will not last. Loving your children even though they will make choices you cannot control. Loving your life even though it will end. And Marcus adds something in Meditations, Book 7. Chapter 9, that I think is the most beautiful expression of this. Love the people with whom fate brings you together. He loved Commodus, not the emperor Commodus would become. The son fate gave him.
That is making me tear up a little because it is so human. He is not a marble statue. He is a dad who loves his kid, even though his kid is going to break his heart.
And then there is his body. Marcus suffered from chronic illness for most of his adult life. Galen, his personal physician, documented stomach ailments, chest pains, and what was likely a chronic ulcer condition in Meditations Book 2. He writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not being dramatic. He was genuinely uncertain how much time he had left, and instead of that making him bitter, it made him urgent. Every journal entry has this quality of someone who knows time is short.
You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That is not a man in denial. That is a man who is fully aware of how bad things are and choosing to show up anyway.
And that is the key to understanding Marcus Aurelius. He was not naturally calm. He was not born stoic with a lowercase s. He was a man who felt everything deeply and chose, every single day, to respond with virtue instead of despair. Meditations is not the writing of someone who has it figured out. It is the writing of someone who is fighting to figure it out every single day.
That actually makes me love the book more because it means he was struggling just like the rest of us.
He was struggling, and here is what makes Meditations unique in all of ancient literature. He did not write Meditations to teach anyone. He wrote it to coach himself. Every entry is Marcus talking to Marcus, reminding himself, correcting himself, sometimes scolding himself. It is the most intimate document to survive from the ancient world, and the fact that it survived at all is itself a kind of amor fati. He never intended for anyone to read it, and yet here we are, 2,000 years later, finding exactly what we need in his private journal.
That gives me chills. He wrote it for himself, And it ended up helping millions of people across 2,000 years. That is fate working in a way he never could have imagined.
And I think there is a lesson in that for all of us. The work you do on yourself, the private work, the journaling, the self-correction, the daily practice of choosing virtue, that work ripples outward in ways you cannot predict. Marcus did not know he was writing for us. He was just trying to get through another day, and that is enough.
Okay, so how do we actually do what Marcus did? Because I am not an emperor, I do not have a plague to manage, but I have my own version of all of this, my own losses, my own difficult people, my own body that does not always cooperate.
Marcus had a specific practice that he did every evening. Scholars call it the evening review, and it is something you can start tonight. Here is how it works.
The evening review. I like that. What do I do?
At the end of your day, sit down for 5 minutes with a journal, or even just your phone, and answer 3 questions. Question 1. What happened today that I did not choose? This could be anything. A difficult conversation, bad news, a plan that fell apart, an unexpected obstacle, just name it.
Okay, name the unchosen thing.
Question 2. How did I respond? Not how do I wish I had responded. How did I actually respond? Marcus was ruthlessly honest with himself about this. He would write things like, "Today I was impatient. Today I let anger control me. No judgment, just observation."
So it is like a character audit, not a productivity review.
Exactly, a character audit. And question 3. How can I use this tomorrow? This is the amor fati question. Not how do I avoid this happening again? How do I use it? Maybe the difficult conversation revealed something you needed to hear. Maybe the obstacle forced you to find a better path. Maybe the bad news freed you from a situation that was not working. The question is always, how does this become fuel?
3 questions. 5 minutes every evening. That is doable.
Marcus did this for decades, not because it was easy, because it worked. It kept him grounded, it kept him honest, and it kept him connected to the Stoic principle that the obstacle on the path becomes the path.
Hey, quick pause before we wrap up. If this conversation is resonating with you, take a second to hit the like button. It really helps more people discover Stoic wisdom. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is a great time. We genuinely read every single comment, so let us know what you are thinking. Okay, let me pull this together. Okay, this episode hit different. Let me try to capture what we learned about Marcus Aurelius and amor fati.
Take your time.
Number 1. Marcus Aurelius practiced amor fati, not from a place of comfort, but from a place of genuine suffering. Plague, war, betrayal, chronic illness, and a son who would destroy his legacy. His wisdom is credible because it was forged in real pain. Number 2. Amor fati for Marcus was not abstract philosophy. It was daily practice. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." He meant the actual soldiers, the actual cold, the actual son who broke his heart. Number 3. Meditations was never meant to be published. It is Marcus coaching himself through the hardest moments of his life. That is why it feels so honest. He was not performing wisdom. He was fighting for it. Number 4. Marcus wrote you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not being dramatic. He was genuinely uncertain how much time he had, and that urgency made every day matter. And number 5. The evening review. 3 questions every night. What happened that I did not choose? How did I respond? How can I use this tomorrow? Marcus did this for decades. We can start tonight.
Beautifully done, and I want to close with this. Marcus Aurelius did not have a good life by most standards. He had a hard life, a painful life, a life full of loss and disappointment and physical suffering. And he chose to love it, not because it was easy, because it was his. He chose to love a life that kept breaking his heart, and that choice, made every single day for 20 years, is why we are still talking about him.
He chose to love a life that kept breaking his heart. I do not think I will ever forget that.
Start the evening review tonight. 3 questions, 5 minutes. See what Marcus saw.
If this episode changed how you think about Marcus Aurelius and what it means to love your fate, follow Daily Stoic Mentality wherever you are listening. We will see you in the next one.